Hello, everybody. What's happening? Good to see you. Good to have you here. You are just in time. You are right on time. It is just about time to get things going. We are revisiting time again. And I want to check in with you about last week to see if over the last week you paid attention to your perception of time, your understanding of time, your relationship with time, and see if there was anything that you noticed. Usually when we pay attention to things, we notice stuff. So how did the week go? Did you feel like time slipped away? Did you feel like you didn't have enough of it? Did you feel bored? Did you sense any other patterns in your days and in the week that related to time? Whatever you noticed, keep paying attention, and over the course of the next few episodes, hopefully we will touch on some of those things. And there's a lot to dig into. For instance, if you feel like you are poor with time management versus being bored. Both have to do with time, both have to do with your relationship with time, but how you might respond to those will change. So keep listening, keep watching. I was thinking about it, and we don't matter as human beings. We don't matter to time. But time matters a lot to us. For some of us, time is the most important thing. It's the only thing that we feel like we have or that we don't have enough of. So moving forward, I know last week we talked about how if you were to really, truly, in my opinion, understand time, you would know that we can't spend it, and we can't buy it or sell it, and we can't run out of it, and we can't get more of it. But we use so much language around time that almost activates a different analogy depending on the language that we use, like spending time, treating time as a currency. It's hard to get away from that. And rather than continue on trying to delicately dance around and avoid using these analogies, let's just agree that time is none of those things that we talked about, or those things don't really apply to those things that we talked about. But since it's so ingrained in us, we can continue the conversation using the language that we have available and continue to push the conversation forward. I was thinking about it, if I could sell time, if I could somehow bottle it and sell it, I would be the richest man alive. And what's funny is that I think for a lot of people, for most people even, if we had all the time in the world, we'd probably just keep doing the same thing anyway. Or we just wouldn't do anything because we just have all the time in the world. But what does that even mean, really? I don't think, if you really think about it, imagine there just not being any end. Like this is just going to go on forever. I don't know if anybody really wants that, to just be a participant in time forever. At some point, you probably want to be like, okay, let's get off this ride, go to the next dimension, whatever. But part of what makes our experience being alive interesting and fun and worthwhile, part of what makes it that is the fact that it's finite, that at some point it will go away. So we gotta do the best that we can with the time that we have. And another way of looking at it, this idea of having all the time in the world, what would you do if you had all the time in the world? Well, guess what? You do have all the time in the world. If you think of the world right now, all the time in the world right now, it's all happening right now, and you're in it. It's this moment, whether it's here or on the other side of the planet, it's still this moment. And now that moment's gone, and now here's the next moment. But you can do whatever you want with that moment. And that's all the time that we really know exists right now, is the time that is taking place right now. So you have all the time in the world. It comes down to what you want to do with it, what you want to do in it. What's interesting is that they've done studies, and if someone is presented with a task and a time frame within which to complete that task, that task is going to take as long as the time that was allotted. So if you have a week to build a fence, or you have 4 weeks to build a fence, same fence. If you have 4 weeks to do it, it's going to take you 4 weeks. If you have 1 week to do it, you're going to do it in a week. It's this weird relationship that we have where things just take as long as we give ourselves to do them. So one idea or argument or thought is that, well, if you just gave yourself a window to do stuff, you would do it in that window. In a lot of ways, that is true. Obviously, there's some things that just take longer. But if you were to think about the minimal amount of time that something could be done in, and that would be like the lower end, and then extend that much further out, then you have kind of your range. When I was saying that, I was just thinking of football, and I'll tell you why. I looked this up, and the average football game, like the average NFL game, these days, if you watch it, well, these days we're not watching much in terms of live sports, unless you're into the UFC, but in a normal season, a football game that's on TV, NFL, is going to take like 3, maybe 3.5 hours even for that game to be played. Now, I looked this up. The average football game, the ball is in play for 11 minutes. The game is actually 11 minutes long in terms of stuff happening, the ball being in play. Obviously, there's a lot of strategizing and timeouts, and they're figuring out what plays to run, and that is part of the game for sure. But the ball is in play for an average of 11 minutes. But it takes 3 hours. And guess what? If the networks wanted to sell more soap, the game would take 4 hours. Once a year it does. So that's semi-relevant, semi-irrelevant, but when things come into my brain, I like to just say them. We generally take as long to do something as the time we have to do it in. Now, why is that? Why is it so hard to complete a task early? If you have a paper due in a month, and for most of us, we're writing it like the week before it's due. Why not write it the week that it was assigned? And then it's done, and you can chill for 3 weeks. Never happens, at least not in my experience, and I don't really know anybody that's ever done that. So why? Because we're lazy? Well, why are we lazy? Are we really lazy? If this is kind of a very innate natural human instinct, lazy has kind of a negative connotation. Maybe that's just built into our wiring, our DNA. So maybe lazy is a bad term, but you know what I mean when I say lazy. Think about a time when you chose to be lazy. Because it's nice, you on the weekends, you've been working really hard. You're like, I'm just going to veg out for a little while. I'm just going to be lazy, lay around. And have you ever finished that and been like, wow, I feel so good? No. You probably finished that and then you're like, maybe I'll go to bed or go eat some snacks, right? It doesn't actually feel super good to intentionally be lazy. Now, rest and recovery, I think, is different. And to be intentional with that, where you are actively, like, you know what it is you're doing, and you're paying attention to what you're doing, well, that's not being lazy. Popping on Netflix until you get that window that says, hey, are you still watching? And you don't even know what's been happening because while the show or whatever that's been playing on Netflix, you're sitting there with your phone scrolling through social media, not really paying too much attention to either. That's lazy. That's just checking out. That's just trying to numb out and disconnect. And we all have a tendency, I think, to do that. I know I do. There's a great saying that says, laziness is the habit of resting before you get tired. Laziness is the habit of resting before you get tired. I like that a lot. There's a lot in there. It's a habit. It's a habit. You can break a habit, and one of the most effective ways to break a habit is to make a habit, to replace it, to replace the bad habit with a good one. So if you're in the habit of resting before you get tired, you can break that habit. If we're talking about time as currency, if you're spending your time, think about that. Being lazy, time is being spent, right? You're slowly just throwing that money out there. It's like if time was currency, then laziness would be like lighting money on fire. It's just sitting there, just lighting bills on fire and just watching them burn. That's laziness. Now, before you get down on yourself, I want to share with you another great saying. If you're feeling lazy, don't worry. You will never be as lazy as whoever named the fireplace. Think about that. What's that over there? Oh, that's the fireplace. So, you're not as lazy as whoever named that. But when it comes to something, even the super high achievers, even the rooster crew and the people that get up early and they get after it, no excuses and all that stuff, like we're all kind of lazy when it comes to something. We all want to avoid doing something or kind of just check out or disconnect when it comes to something. That might be different across different people. Now, another thing that is part of our hard wiring as human beings is that we're designed to be in motion. We're designed to move. We're not designed to sprint at top speed all the time. But one of the things that sets us apart, being predators if you look at other mammal predators, they're good at going really fast for short periods of time. And we're good at going moderately fast for a really long time relative to other mammals, most other mammals. So all that to say, we're designed to move. If you don't move, a lot of things suffer. Motion is a requirement for physical, emotional, mental, dare I say, spiritual health. Motion is a requirement for that. So when you are not in motion, in one of those avenues, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, if you're just not in motion anywhere, if you're just stagnant, if you're just sitting there, that's laziness, and that's bad for your health. And like I said, it's a habit, right? It's a choice that's been repeated over and over and over again. And it's a choice that's probably been made so many times that we don't even know that we're making a choice. That's when it's a habit. You're just doing it. You don't even know why. Here's something that I think is helpful. It's helpful for me. But when I get frustrated with something that I'm trying to do or change or fix or evolve, and I'm really, really struggling, think of all the things that I've tried in the past. And I've tried so many things. If I've tried so many things and those things aren't working, well, guess what? My best decision making, my best ability to make decisions and choices is what got me to this place. Granted, we've probably all made really good decisions. I'm really happy with the decisions that I've made in life. Really happy with where I am. I feel like I've made some really good decisions when it comes to certain areas of my life. And over the course of my life, there's been times where I've made really, really bad decisions over and over and over and over again. And those were my decisions. I'm a smart person, I feel like. I feel like I'm capable. I feel like I'm very resourceful. I feel like I'm very successful in a lot of ways. Why is it that I can't make the right decisions to get me where I need to be in this one specific area? And I don't have an answer for you. I know there was that long dramatic pause right there. You were hoping for this really cool, profound, deep, moving answer. I don't have one. Here's what I do know, that when I've gotten to those places where I've been making decisions and changing and trying new things and nothing just really ever worked, I kept winding up with the same result. Maybe I should consider that I'm not the one that should be making these decisions. That I should turn those decisions over to someone or something else. That's why we get nutrition coaching, and that's why we join a gym and get a trainer, or we join street parking and we get coaches and we watch their videos and we learn and we look at Moran and Julian and we see what they're doing. And in a lot of ways, what we're doing is we're trying to give over our decision making. And sometimes that's enough. But sometimes we're so deeply into that groove, right? It's so chiseled in there that it's so hard to break. And at the end of the day, people can teach us. People can show us. It's up to us, still, it's up to us to make that choice. If we can take a step back, though, before we make the choice and recognize that it is a choice and look outside of ourselves for the right answer, then maybe we can break that habit and maybe we can replace that habit with the act of looking outside of ourselves and our best decision making towards someone or something else that can help. What that someone or something is is kind of going to be up to you to figure out. But I guarantee you it's there. That's one of the reasons why I think community is so strong. If you think of a community of people is greater than the sum of its parts. It's greater than any one member of that community. It's the collective energies and emotions and feelings and passions and knowledge of a group of people. And if for the most part that group of people is moving in a positive direction, then we can look to that group as this really powerful force that can help us in our decision making. So think about what areas of your life do you feel like there's maybe you're stagnant, or you've tried a bunch of times to make improvements, but you keep winding up in the same spot. This being a fitness company and trying to relate the podcast back to fitness and fitness in all the different areas, emotional fitness and mental fitness, and of course, physical fitness. But what I want you to do, number one, just think about maybe there's an area that you're thinking of that comes into your head where you've tried over and over, or you've tried a bunch of different things, and in your best decision making has landed you in a place where the outcome has not been what you wanted, where you keep coming back to the same result and it's not a result that you want. Identify what that is. And then the next time that you are faced with a decision, stop. Just take a second. Pause. Recognize that you have a choice. And try to think about what that thing is that's more powerful than you are. That community, that group of people. What would this person do? What would this thing do? What would this community want me to do right now? Do that. It's a little scary, especially if we like to have a lot of control over things. Because you got to give it up. You got to trust that something else out there, something bigger than you, or even just that there's an expert out there that knows better than you, and you have to trust them. If you don't trust them, if you don't believe that they can help, then at some point you're going to stop listening. So you have to identify what the thing is. You have to believe, you have to trust that there is this thing out there that can give you strength, this collective consciousness, this collective group, this collective passion and knowledge that can show you the way. You have to stop and you have to ask for that, and you have to think about it. And what would they have me do? What would this community have me do? What would this thing that's bigger than me have me do right now? And then all you got to do is do it. Thank you so much for tuning in. I love you. I'll see you next week.